My name is Robert Stone. I'm the chair of the Underhill Select Board. Today is the 27th of February, Thursday. It is now 6 p.m. I'm going to call this 2025 town meeting informational hearing to order. There has been an agenda that has been provided. Are there any changes to the or amendments to the agenda? None.
Yeah, it can't be. Yeah, we're good.
Right. So with that, Dan Manns, our town moderator, is here this evening to facilitate this portion of the meeting. Is there any opening public comment from anyone?
Got one person coming online, Bob, here, so maybe just give it a second.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, Nancy. We just barely got started. So go ahead, Bob, if you want to.
Art, do you have anything public comment?
Regarding the bridge.
We can get to that.
We'll get to that. But as far as the informational meeting at all, no. Nancy, are you all set? We're going to kick off if you're good without opening public comment. I'm going to assume yes. Dan, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. So let me begin by reading the portion of the Town of Underhill official warning for this year's annual town meeting relevant to the discussion tonight. It reads, the legal voters of the Town of Underhill in the County of Chittenden, State of Vermont, are hereby further notified and warned to meet at the Browns River Middle School in Jericho, Vermont, on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025, between the hours of 7 o'clock in the forenoon, at which time the polls will open, and 7 o'clock in the afternoon, at which time the polls will close, to vote by Australian ballot upon the following articles. Article 6 is to elect all town officers and school directors as required by law. Article 7 is shall the town appropriate $2,000 to the Jericho Underhill Food Hub for education and services in support of local foods. Article 8 reads, shall general obligation bonds or notes of the Town of Underhill in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $878,000, subject to reduction from available state and federal construction grants in aid and other financial resources, be issued to finance the removal and replacement of Bridge Number 7 on Pleasant Valley Road. The legal voters of the Town of Underhill are further notified that the voter qualification, registration, and absentee voting relative to said annual town meeting shall be provided in chapters 43, 51, and 55 of Title 17 of the Vermont Statutes Annotated. The legal voters of the Town of Underhill are further notified and warned that a public informational meeting will be held on Thursday, February 27th, 2025 at Town Hall and electronically on the GoToMeeting platform beginning at 6 o'clock in the afternoon for the purpose of explaining the proposed Bridge Number 7 project and the financing for it. This was adopted and approved at a meeting of the Select Board for the Town of Underhill, duly called, noticed, and held on January 23rd of 2025, and it is signed by the Select Board. Pursuant to that, there is also a resolution of necessity for the capital construction project replacement of Bridge Number 7, and let me read that for everyone. It begins, whereas the Select Board of the Town of Underhill, otherwise known as Select Board, engaged a structural engineer to evaluate the condition and continued viability of Bridge Number 7 on Pleasant Valley Road circa 1927, and whereas the town's engineer has advised the Town of Underhill that Bridge 7 exhibits extensive and pervasive concrete spalling, map cracking, crushing of abutment stems, deformation and delamination of the concrete deck beams, and that VTrans has reported that major rehabilitation or full replacement of bridge number 7 is warranted, and whereas the town's engineer believes that a full replacement of bridge number 7 is a more cost-effective option than repair, and the select board is optimistic that the town could receive one or more VTrans structures grant to assist in defraying the cost of removing and replacing bridge number 7. Now, therefore, be it further resolved, at a regular meeting of the Select Board of the Town of Underhill, duly warned and held on January 23rd of 2025, it was determined that the public interest and necessity demand that the town remove and dispose of bridge number 7 and construct a new bridge in its place at an aggregate estimated cost of $878,000, and the project. And now be it further resolved that the costs of the project after the application of available state and federal construction grants in aid, reserves, and other funds, potentially including VTrans structure grants, are too great to be paid out of the ordinary annual income and revenue of the town. And be it further resolved that a proposal for the issuance of general obligation bonds or notes of the town in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $878,000 to pay for the project, subject to reduction from available state and federal grants in aid, should be submitted to the legal voters of the town at the annual meeting thereof, to be duly warned and held on March 4th, 2025. And be it further resolved that the town shall hold a public informational meeting on the bond issue and all other Australian ballot articles on Thursday, February 27, 2025, commencing at 6 o'clock in the afternoon at Town Hall and electronically on the GoToMeeting platform, with the specific details and dial-in numbers to be specified in the warning for the annual meeting and the warning for the public information meeting. And be it further resolved that all acts relating to the proposition of incurring bonded indebtedness and the issuance of general obligation bonds or notes of the town for the purpose of financing the project be in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 53 of Title 24 Vermont Statutes Annotated. And be it further resolved that the attached warning and form of ballot is specifically adopted for use in connection with consideration of the above stated proposition for making public improvements and incurring bonded indebtedness therefore. And that was dated on January 23rd of this year, signed by the Select Board. So to back up and begin this, we need to just walk through Articles 6, 7, and 8. Article 6 is the one regarding election of town officers and school directors. That will be by Australian ballot on town meeting day next Tuesday. So we really have nothing to discuss about that this evening. Article 7 is just a quick matter for the $2,000 question for the Jericho Underhill Food Hub for education and services in support of local funds. This item appears as an Australian ballot item because the food hub approached the town. They missed the deadline for the budgeting process this year. So as an alternative, they were able to petition the town to have this article placed for Australian ballot vote at town meeting. So the food hub, the Jericho Underhill Food Hub, is a nonprofit, supports a variety of education and local food support activities in the two towns of Jericho and Underhill. There's more information available here at the town office about that if anyone would like. The real issue before us tonight is around the replacement of the bridge and the bonding for the $878,000. There has been a fairly detailed analysis and inspection report of the bridge, which is available. And let me turn this over to Brad Holden at this time, if you want to give a quick walkthrough of what this says, why this is needed, and how the amount of money came about, all of that.
Sure. The bridge, all bridges in town are inspected every 2 years by VTrans. So this bridge in particular has, we've been fortunate to have it inspected 3 years consecutively. So this is the latest inspection report, which was available on the website. The inspection date was 8/7/2024. So I put that up on the website. There's pictures available. And as you can see, it basically corroborates the resolution of necessity. Our structural engineer, Cricket McCusker, has been involved in the design. We've also hired a civil engineer, Tyler Billingsley. He's done the civil part. So just to go back a few years, I think it's probably been between 4 and 5 years, we received a structures grant for the design. So we received a grant from VTrans as they recognize that this bridge is at the end of its life. So we received an engineering grant, and we used those monies with some town match to do the structural analysis, the construction drawings, the civil part. We're currently applying for permits with Army Corps of Engineers and Vermont Fish and Wildlife because it is a stream. So we're in that process. We're also in the process of acquiring some temporary and permanent easements from the neighboring landowners. The road is, Pleasant Valley is a 4-rod road. It's a 66-foot right-of-way. We have a survey to back that up. However, some areas of the wing wall where we'll have to reinforce the banks will need riprap or large stone to support the bank. Those areas are slightly out of the right-of-way. So we'll acquire permanent easements, shall we need to maintain those areas. The idea, so we've applied for this grant before, and we received a very favorable acknowledgement from VTrans, but they were hesitant to give us the grant because we didn't have bond approval. So I'm fairly confident, and I don't want to say I'm 100% confident, but I'm fairly confident that we're going to receive a $200,000 structures grant to supplement or to offset the final cost or the cost of replacement. So we would apply for that this spring. The deadline is April 15th. We would obviously, if the bond were to pass, we would supply VTrans with the abstract of the vote that, hey, here's the bond. We have approval from the town to issue bonds, hopefully get the grant, also submit the Army Corps permits and just show that we're well on our way. Then the idea would be to put the project out for a construction estimate in the fall, and then construction would be in the summer of 2026. So when you apply for a VTrans grant, so if we apply in April of this year, it's actually good this July. So their state fiscal year, the money's right there, it's in place. But however, given the timing of town meeting, the bond, and the limited window that we have to replace the bridge, it makes more sense to have the contractors bid on it in the fall, replace it in 2026. The bridge would be completely closed down, so the Pleasant Valley Road would be completely closed, and we would have to run traffic on Irish Settlement Road. So that is the fastest way to probably get this bridge replaced. Sometimes you can build a temporary bridge on the side but that just lengthens the, the time it takes to replace the bridge, because you got to build another bridge before you take the bridge out. It adds to the cost. So while it's going to be a little bit inconvenient, I think we need to get the word out that people should be utilizing Vermont 15, and local traffic will have to utilize Irish Settlement. I'm not sure how long the bridge will take, but I'm sure it will be completed in that one construction season, because we can only be in the water during a certain time frame. There has been some actions that the select board has taken due to the deterioration of the bridge. So a couple of years ago, we limited overweight permits. So 24,000 pounds is the most weight that can go across. However, school buses still continue to cross, fuel trucks, only items that are necessary for the public good. Let's see. So the bond process. So basically we have to get approval from the voters to issue bonds. So we can go about that a couple of different ways. We could go through the municipal bond bank, or we could go through actual private banking. So the legislature gives municipalities the authority to issue bonds once we have approval. So then there'll be another step to this whole thing where Jennifer will take over as finance officer and Sherry as treasurer to negotiate a bond rate. And again, the idea is, once we have our construction estimates and hopefully our grant in place, that we're only going to borrow up to what we need. See if I have anything else to add to that.
Let's pause there and see, we've got a couple of folks online. We have a couple of folks here in the room. So maybe this is a great opportunity to ask, are there questions or comments that the public attending tonight has? Would you care to start here? Yeah. Come on up, and if you sit right in this chair and poke that red button, everybody will be able to hear you. Please start out, just tell us your name, where you live, and then launch right in.
I'm Bart Johnston, and I live on Dune Road. I've been up there since '94. I'm retired from VTrans. I retired 11 years ago, and I was a right-of-way agent. My job was to be the go-between between VTrans and the public on any job where we had to go out of the right-of-way. And when you replace old bridges of 27, you almost always have to go out of the right-of-way. So I worked on a lot of these bridges. Back when Madeline Coonan was governor, back in the, 80s, a study was done by VTrans and I think consultants as well. They took a look at these old flood of 27 bridges. And those bridges were designed to last 50 years max. They didn't have much money and they needed to get bridges in fast, and they just threw them in. One design fits all, and they became all too narrow and they became unsafe. One of the bridges that I worked on was on Route 15 in Jericho Corners at the Red Mill. That bridge was so bad, it was flooded 27, that there was a bridge tech every morning that would stop and go under that bridge and take a look, because that bridge was one overloaded log truck from going right in the river. So I really wanted to come here and say how necessary it is that we replace these bridges. And I was tempted to go down on Pleasant Valley and look under Bridge 7, but with all the snow, I might go down, but I probably couldn't get back up again. So
nobody's paying you for that anymore, so it's okay.
Yeah, and but I knew it's going to be a nightmare. And if people could see that, they'd say, I'm not driving over that bridge. So I just wanted to reiterate, I know I'm speaking to the choir here because you folks have all approved this already, but it is really necessary. because that study that under Governor Coonan said that all bridges had to be replaced as soon as possible. And she started a program, but she didn't put any money in it. So it was up to the next governor and the governor after that to put the money and start replacing these bridges. I don't know how many of these nightmare scenarios we have left, but this definitely needs to be replaced because it could collapse tomorrow. And,
Well, I think I think I would say that while it is in very poor condition, VTrans does not, they consider it fair. They say that it needs replacing. And if it were that dangerous, we'd have it closed off. So
Right.
it can support the traffic under 24,000 pounds safely, we believe, based on VTrans' opinion and our structural engineer. But our structural engineer, she's been in the business a long time. Her father was a well-known TR Fellows structural engineer, and it definitely makes her nervous. So I would just add one more quick thing, just as far as infrastructure. So, we have quite a few bridges in Underhill here, and this is probably the worst one we have. So once this is fixed, we're in fairly good shape, except for maintenance. We did a major project on Bridge 8, which is right up here, up the road. That was taken out in 55, in the flood of 55. But I believe this is our last 1928. 27's really, the flood happened in 27, so we know we didn't replace it immediately. I'm assuming it was in 1928. But anyway, I think once this major project is complete, it's just focused on maintenance from here on out.
Good. Thank you. Thank you very much for that perspective. Very knowledgeable.
Thank you. Yeah.
Folks online, let me turn to you. Are there any questions, comments, input from anyone online? Okay, none so appearing. Yes, Dan.
Am I remembering this correct, that one of the reasons why we need to have this article, we need to approve this bond, even though we don't yet know what the state is going to give us, or if, and we also don't know, we haven't had the bids yet. We don't know the real cost. We've done due diligence on that. But is it so the state can be reassured that the people of the town of Underhill will underwrite whatever the cost is? So if we approve the total cost, we will be good for the rest of the cost. Am I correct in remembering that?
I would say that's right. That's how the resolution is worded. Of course, you always have to plan on some contingency, right? Because we all know these major construction projects don't come out right on the button to what the bid was. There's usually unforeseen things and extra costs. So yes, and I think the decision of the board, I believe Patty was the one that made the motion that we should bond for the full amount, not counting on the grant. And if we get the grant, all the better. But we'll have to enter those discussions when we get closer and when we get our bids, see where we're at, hopefully.
Thank you. Other thoughts, questions? Thank you for going over all of that in detail. I think that was very, very helpful and good explanation. And hopefully it'll save us a little time at town meeting. You won't need to review it all there again.
That's right. There's another opportunity.
There is another opportunity, right?
Australian Ballot questions at town meeting.
At town meeting, so. Okay, well, if there are no further questions about this matter, I've got about 6:25. This informational meeting was scheduled to go until 6:30, at which time the select board regular meeting would continue. But I think I can safely yield 5 minutes back. Dan?
I wanted to go back to the food hub article.
Yeah.
Now, they weren't in the budget last year.
No, so it's
It's not because they missed a deadline that they have an article. They needed to get, for the first time, a petition.
no, that's not true. So we have an appropriations policy, and the appropriation policy reads that if a new appropriation were to approach the select board, they have to do so in a certain time frame. So that time frame, and then it could have been up to you as a select board to add them to the Australian ballot as a new question. So any new appropriation or any appropriation that requests an increase more than $250 must go back on the ballot, so on the Australian ballot. So if they had gotten their request in time, you could have added them to the warning yourselves, but since they were past the deadline, they were forced to get the petition.
So regardless, they needed to be on the warning.
Exactly.
It's just the way they did it.
Right.
They had to go through an extra step.
Extra step, but I think that's good. So
It is good. It emphasizes the town's support for such a thing because the town stepped up, signed a petition, and they already have an initial support before the vote.
Right.
Thanks.
I will now yield 3 minutes back to you for your regular select board meeting. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you very much, Dan.
My pleasure.
So I'm going to move that we adjourn this select board hearing. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of adjourning the select board hearing, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 4-0. We are now adjourned from the special or the town meeting informational hearing. Thank you. We'll pause for a few minutes and call our next meeting to order at 6:30. I'm Robert Stone still, and today is still the 27th of February. It is now 6:30. We're going to call this regular scheduled meeting of the select board to order. We have an agenda that has been prepared in advance. Are there any omissions or changes to the agenda? I have one. We're going to make a public announcement here after the public comment period that I'll start. Is there anyone here in the public comment portion that would like to speak?
don't see anyone, Bob.
Okay, so I'm going to add, tonight is our friend Dan Kelsey's last official meeting of the select board as a select board member. I'm hoping, Dan, that in the future, when time allows, that you will be able to rejoin and come back and be a member of the select board. I've enjoyed working with you immensely and wish you all the best, and hope to see you soon. So I really appreciate your time and efforts as a member of the select board.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I absolutely am looking forward to rejoining one day. I do appreciate. I've learned a lot. I've gotten to know you all pretty good, and I hope you know I'm one of your biggest fans. So look forward to doing it again one day.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank Thank you, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. But you're not quite off the hook yet. We still have town meeting.
We have a little bit to get through, but we'll try to make it quick so you can. I understand there's some celebrations that need to take place, so we will move as quickly as possible. And if you need to bow out, I will completely understand.
Thank you.
Next item on the hit parade here is some land contracts. Our friend Amanda's here to help walk us through all this. Good evening.
Hello. So these are actually just two transfers. There's two parcels of land that sold, and the new owners want to continue in the land contract instead of paying the penalty. The next land contracts won't be until April for the renewals for the 10 years. But this is just, and these just extend it to whatever their original end time was. So this one would end in 32 and this one would end in, it doesn't really matter, but 29. But it's just, yeah, just taking it over. It's not a new one.
So I'll move that we approve the land stabilization, tax stabilization transfer to the Sanders at 106 Rupper Road in Underhill. Is there a second?
I can second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of extending the tax stabilization agreement for the Sanders located at 106 Rupper Road in the town of Underhill, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. The next is a tax stabilization transfer for the Schulers at 210 Beartown Road. I move that we authorize the transfer of the tax stabilization agreement to the Schulers. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of extending the tax stabilization agreement transfer to the Schulers at 210 Beartown Road, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Anything else?
I have the originals here if you just want to quickly sign them, but it's up to you.
Yep, we can do that at the end.
And then I'll collect them.
Yeah, it just needs one of you. It doesn't need all of you. So
Dan, as your official capacity.
Yeah.
There you go. Sign them up.
That's right. Yeah.
Next on the item on the agenda is
Thank
to
you, Dan.
review the landfill correspondence from the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation.
Yeah, this is
Brad, you
just,
want to walk us through that a little bit?
sure. This is just a quick follow-up. As we had a couple meetings ago, I presented the fall ground monitoring results. And our environmental consultant had forwarded those off to the State Department of Environmental Conservation. And this is basically just acknowledging the receipt of that and found that we continue to be fairly consistent on the results. Unfortunately, monitoring should continue or shall continue according to the post-closure certification. So
No action to be taken other than.
no action to be taken, just
be aware.
wanted to get it into the record.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad. Any questions for Brad regarding the correspondence from the Vermont Department of Environmental Conservation? Seeing, hearing none, we'll move right along. Continuation. Russ's favorite conversation is to continue our conversation about the 2018 dump truck and consider options which may include authorizing a 5-year lease agreement.
Russ comes with a pass.
Just like to start out, Dan, as well. Good luck to you, and thank you for your term here on the select board. And again, hope to see you around town, just going straight down your driveway and not backwards.
Me too.
Wish you the best. Okay, so again, I just want to thank you all for taking this matter seriously. Myself, the rest of the road crew finds it very important to keep our equipment in tip-top shape and have the best equipment possible to do the jobs that we need to do in the town to take care of the citizens of Underhill. As well as Brad and Jennifer and Sherry, who have spent a lot of time working on numbers and scenarios and so on. I couldn't do it without them, and I greatly appreciate their help, no matter which way this goes. But again, we all work together, and I've got a lot of information, and I don't know really where you want to start, other than I know you've got some information that Brad has given out to you.
Yeah, it's supplemental information. I don't know, Jennifer, do you want to explain that, or Russ, do you want to explain it?
I
or
think it
can?
would be best. I think Jennifer, being our number girl, really could probably explain it the best. I'll start out by saying that the repairs that we have made on the truck have been holding and been working good so far, which I'm very pleased with the job that the guys have done to repair the truck to keep it going. I do still have concern of future life expectancy of the truck, but we will see. What else did I want to say? I guess we could wait and we could go through this. I was hoping to be able to, after reviewing this a little bit more this afternoon, I had a few questions and I was hoping to meet with Jennifer before the meeting, but with roads turning to ice and kind of didn't allow that to happen. So we still have some options to consider for our 2018 replacement. And once again, I just want to say that these are prime pieces of equipment that we use on a daily basis, that we need to have go at a moment's notice, similar to a fire apparatus or an ambulance or anything like that. They're extremely important. We're definitely moved in a nice direction, getting our equipment updated and getting our routes done in good quality time. We're hoping with our new truck that we have just put in service for Ken that he's been able to cut some time down on his route for not having to come back and reload. He's able to do it with one load, and we're probably going to start planning maybe changing the routes a little bit to add some to him, to take away a little bit of mine, to even it out a little bit. So we've got some nice plans in the works. So I think at this point, I think we'll just start. Jennifer, you want to go over some of your scenarios?
If that's okay with you guys. So we looked at the options with this 2018 truck, and there basically boils down to what to the team here is 4 options. There probably are more, but kind of boils down to the 4 options. And if you look at the current debt structure diagram, which I'm happy to upload onto the website tomorrow morning. So if anyone in Cyberland wants to see it, basically, these are the loans that we have. And if we were to do any one of these scenarios, this is how it would affect our payments during the fiscal year 27, and also what our current debt total would be for that year.
Clarify, this is not just highway department debt. This is like the town's total debt structure. Is this just?
Yes, this is total debt.
Total, okay.
Yeah,
Because it looks like it's all highway equipment, but I wanted to make sure that there's not
We don't have
other debt.
other debt
outstanding than this. Okay,
at this point.
thank you.
I mean, we have in the past, we did have a bond when we did the construction on this building,
Mhm.
but we don't have any other debt. So
Okay.
this is our total debt.
Okay, thank you.
So scenario number 1 is in keeping with the 10-year outlook, which we also included in your packet. We've had a schedule that we replace our trucks. It's a 10-year schedule. So if we were to keep that 10-year schedule, we would still need to order this 2018 truck replacement now, because it's now taking 18 months to get a new truck. So we would still need to order it now. But if it was to come in fiscal year 27, payment wouldn't then begin until fiscal year 28. Correct me if I'm saying anything wrong. So the payments would appear similar to what you see in the first paragraph, which is the total payments for the year would be $318,000. and our total debt of 1 million, because we wouldn't make those payments for that truck, that first year payment, which will be $70,000, until the following year. There's a little add-on at the bottom of that one for 40,000, and that's because we have a 2021 truck that we leased. And it's a 3-year lease. At the end of the 3 years, which would be fiscal year 27, we have an option to spend $40 and then own that truck.
40,000.
40,000.
What I say?
You said $40.
40,000, sorry, to own that truck. So that's a real deal. Okay, sign it now. So that would increase our debt payment that year to $358,000. So those are option 1 and 2, and that would be in keeping with our 10-year plan. And then we have this.
Can I just stop you at that?
Yeah.
So one of the questions I had, Jennifer, and you could help me with this, is, so any of these are based on fiscal year 27. Well, if I look at the 10-year outlook sheet.
Yep.
In 27, there's no payment for the pickup in fiscal year 27, but is on this
Right.
schedule.
Right. So some of those would that would come off.
So that really should not be.
That
in
14 would
that
come off that
14
year. Yeah.
would be- Okay.
Yeah, that 14 would come off that year. So it would be $14,000 less that year. Yeah.
Okay. So that
In
was one-
payments.
That was one of the questions.
And that,
Do we want to say something about the lease, that the idea or what we thought
oh
about
yeah.
the lease?
So when we first did the lease,
For
when
the 21.
we approved that lease for the 21 truck
Mhm.
in 2024, I had checked with attorneys who drew up all the agreements and checked with our auditors at the time. And we talked about whether, leasing a truck without putting it on a ballot, was that okay? And they both said yes.
Okay.
What our new auditors have said, and I didn't know this until we got our new audit report, is if you are leasing a vehicle, you're committing the town to that total amount. And it is advisable that that's something that you would ask the taxpayers. So we can't go back, so we're not going back. But I think that's something we want to consider as we discuss this potential lease of moving this replacement for the 2018 truck up. Because the only way for us to move it up rather than it be in the 2027 fiscal year and then be on that ballot next year at town meeting as a purchase, the only way to move that up sooner is for us to do the lease like we did last time. And that's something that may or may not be advisable, but obviously that would be up to the select board, Sherry, and perhaps some legal advisement.
Mhm.
One quick thing about that meeting, when someone did come in and voice their, that they were not happy about the lease, we do have some minutes here where Patty had said, she had mentioned, if you did want to consider buying that truck for the $40,000 balloon payment, that she believed that it should go on the ballot. I think that's what.
Oh, yeah. If we were to purchase
If we were to consider purchasing it.
Patty said the lease ends after 3 years. This is the 21. We will need to decide whether we're going to keep that truck. If we want to keep it, it probably should go to a public vote. That therefore the voters would have an opportunity to make that decision. So if that scenario came up and the board decided to do that, it may be advisable to then put that on the ballot also for fiscal year 27. Shall the voters pay the $40,000 to buy out that lease in fiscal year 27? But that would be for town meeting next time.
Or
Or you turn it in,
Or-
which is scenario number 1.
Or we could hold a special meeting and we could have a special vote on that now, outside of town meeting. Between town meetings, if we can't do it this meeting because it hasn't been warned, we could have an informational hearing, we could warn it, and we could have a special election.
Absolutely, and you could do that for any of these items. Laying out the rest of the scenarios, the second yellow line, that one's showing the 14,000, which is as if you were turning that lease in during fiscal year 27, and then the lease of the new truck that would be 71,745. And then the last scenario for your consideration would be if we were to keep that 21 truck and do the lease of the new truck. So the reason that we're providing you with all of this is because all of us, the road crew and the town office, we want to make sure that the residents of Underhill, the select board, everyone is aware that we've got this truck that needs to be replaced. We're hoping that we can limp it along as long as possible. I went and actually, Dwayne gave me ad nauseum. I now know a lot about these trucks. Saw the welding that he did on the back. I understand what he replaced and the work they've done, which is incredible. And we're really, really lucky to have a road crew that not only knows how to take care of the roads, but also knows how to repair equipment. I mean, there's towns that don't have mechanics on staff. We basically have mechanics on staff. So that's huge. But I feel like we're at this crossroads with this truck when we need to make a decision, and it's our debt from a financial standpoint. The town, this is the first time the town's ever had a total debt over $1 million. That's where we're at now. So we need to be considering and mindful as we approach this, this purchase, and also considering that we may also be facing this $800,000 plus bond, which over 20 years isn't as much money as we think, because a $300,000 truck is $70,000 payments, but still that's putting the town's debt at a very high rate. And I think it's something that we need to be mindful of because it's kind of unprecedented. The other thing that I want to add that we talked about that's an interesting fact going into these numbers. We have a very new fleet of trucks, but the cost of our trucks and the cost of our financing since the first truck that we have on our fleet the cost of the trucks has almost doubled and the cost of the financing has doubled. So if you look at our loans, and I don't think that piece is here with the percentages.
It's in the
okay.
Right here.
So if you look at any of these, the percentages of the purchases, if you look at the fiscal year 21 truck, we were paying 1.5%. $180,000 22 truck, we were at 1.59%. We're now facing 5.75% interest. So the interest is doubled, and the cost of these vehicles, if you look at what we were paying when we first purchased these trucks, the initial cost of the 2018 was $190,000. We're now looking at, and even Russ's truck, which is a 22, is $200,000. These new vehicles are in excess of $300,000. So our debt increasing isn't a surprise because that's just a fact of these numbers increasing. Mm-hmm. But this is something that we want to be mindful of and that we're all mindful of. And it's a balancing act between that and the maintenance and what's required and the fact that we need these trucks, at 6 o'clock at night to all be working so we can make the road safe. So if you have questions, happy to answer them. Russ, if there's more that you can say.
The only thing at this point I want to say is I remember back in the day when I was in the truck sale business that there was talks of 2027 emission changes. And so I called Dan today at Allegiance and asked him about that. And he says, yes, the 2027 emissions are still coming, and they had talked about it back then, are going to come with an extreme price tag. For instance, for Cummins Engine Company is talking about a $25,000 increase due to emissions. That's their talk at this point. It's nothing set in stone. It's just, no pun intended, Bob, but it's just, that's something we need to be thinking about, and it won't be a surprise down the road that when now instead of $300,000 a truck is $325,000. It's, again, nothing is totally in writing. It's just what they're talking about. And then if, I want to get into the electric side of things, but there is some talk about, and it is already in Massachusetts and it's already in New York State, is dealers are only allowed to sell, they have to sell one electric truck to get 6 diesel powered trucks. State of New York, and I think Massachusetts have done it. They have taken the municipal side out of that. So municipal is not in that ballpark at this point. So maybe we won't have to worry about that, but that is something coming down the line. And I know electric is exciting to some people, but it's definitely not for ourselves in this industry. At this point, maybe down the line, but at this point, definitely not. The current truck still does need some repairs, which we're getting lined up to get done, but which will have to be done anyways. So those will be coming down the line here. So I really understand numbers, the fact that debt is debt and payments are payments. I really understand that. But I also can say that in the heat of the moment, you need trucks that are moving and taking care of the roads in the town without breakdowns. And not to say a new truck can't break down, but less apt to, I would say, especially with the kind of repairs that we've been having, you know, worn out, weakened, things like that.
May I ask just a quick question?
Sure.
If it's all right. So Dwayne spends most of the summer in the excavator, right?
Yes.
So his truck, is it true that his truck isn't worked as hard in the summertime as the rest of them?
It will probably be more of the case this year, but last year Ken ran the truck because
Right, but now Ken has
his own truck, yes,
So we have 3 tandems, 3 drivers,
in the summer.
correct, in the summer. So just a thing, I would think, a logical consideration would be that the truck will spend quite a bit of time sitting in the summer.
It'll spend more time probably being able to not be used.
Another thing that I'm just going to say, the one thing, you know, when Russ and I put together this little memo here with the help of everyone else, I am a firm believer that we should stop trucking our own sand. I mean, I think if you looked at the, you know, what we pay an employee, what our fuel prices are, what wear and tear on the trucks are, running to Johnson and back for 7,000 tons of salt or sand is unnecessary and wear and tear on a truck. That being said, you know, we did half last year. If you wanted to entertain doing the full amount this year, you would also be adding another 35,000 to the budget. So basically it's about 70 grand to haul the 7 tons. That was an estimate based on the last prices we got, or the last bid award. So just another thing.
Well, I understand the importance of hauling sand, and the need for the truck though is not, it's rather focused on, you know, the trucks at hand and what we need to do as far as whether or not we need to buy or lease, or if we're going to hold, based upon what we have before us, because we understand that the 2018 truck is going to need some attention. We're going to have to spend approximately $50,000 to $60,000 if we're going to keep this truck to put a new dump on it, correct?
No.
Well, I don't think we would put a new dump on it because a new dump body is a year out to get just to get a dump body. So that's not going to really help us because if we keep the truck, we'll go 2 more winters with it. So we'll go through next winter with the
Well,
current
how much
truck.
would a dump body cost to put on that truck now, regardless of when it can be put on? What is the cost now?
It's minimum of $52,000.
And there's a need now of that we've made a somewhat temporary repair to the truck, and not sure as far as how long that repair is going to hold, correct?
Correct. And I'll say some of the repairs that do need, like the chassis needs some repairs currently, which will need to get done. Some of the hydraulic issues that we're dealing with, if we choose to replace this truck, then I would probably hold off on doing some of those and let them dribble and leak a little bit before spending extra money that we wouldn't have to if we're going to have a truck.
I guess that's
So-
you're leading into what I guess my final thought is on this, is that if we have a 2018 and we've made temporary repairs to it, we know that there's other issues with it. If we're going to continue down this path as far as whether we're going to buy or lease a replacement truck for that 2018 sooner than what we anticipated, then I would hope that we would somehow nurse that 2018 along until we can take delivery of the new truck and utilize the single axle to its fullest capacity until such time as that we take delivery of that replacement truck of the 2018 and not put money or much money into it.
Absolutely.
So, I want to.
Yeah, no, that was it.
I want to second Jennifer's point of how lucky we are that you guys are capable of doing these repairs. I think that has already saved the town a huge amount of money and time in being able to have you guys work on this yourself. I was wondering if you could just, in the memo, you kind of talked through what the preferred option is, this option one, and run through sort of like what that, I know we kind of have talked through the numbers specifically, but that would look like taking delivery. So it would be leasing the a new truck and taking delivery of it in the fall. And so we think we could limp the 2018 along.
I do.
Okay.
And I just want to say one more thing prior to getting into this a little bit is these numbers do not include anything about what we can sell this truck for. Whether we decide to trade it, which we could do and get an estimated $30,000 to $35,000 for it, or do we do like we did with our excavator and sell it ourselves, which
Right.
have the ability to do so and maybe get $50,000 or $60,000 for it.
And the cost of the truck includes a plow, which we would retain the plow
So
from.
the number of $304,000 includes a complete truck, plow, wing, body, everything ready, turnkey, ready to go.
Yeah.
There is some thoughts of, okay, we purchased a new plow for their 2018 a year ago. So that plow is good. We could just put that plow,
Got it.
save that plow, go on if we chose to. Also, we would have a little bit of time, if we wanted to change the color of the truck, or if we wanted to change something that it doesn't have that we want, or switch it around, whether it's on the chassis side or on the body side. It sounds like because it's not going to be till fall that we could probably change anything, but in the scheme of things, it doesn't really work that way. There's some things we could change, but some things that it's all coming. So it's all in the pipeline. So think about, we'll have some, hopefully it could have some resale money of that truck that we could put towards,
Got it.
and maybe
Okay.
even close to the first payment.
I think the highest trade-in we've ever gotten on a truck from now Allegiance is $20,000.
The
So you're
tandems were
thinking-
they were around 25, they were 25, the tandems. We got 20 for the single axle, which I thought was very good, and so on. So, they're coming up a little bit, but it all depends on the market. It depends on a lot of things, what those values are. Where we used to be able to give a trade number at time of order. Now trade numbers come before you take delivery, because there's a lot of things to look at the time where the truck is valued at. And that's all dealers. That's not just Allegiance. The other thing I did learn today is the truck market has gone all over the place. But if we were to order a new truck today, the chassis would be built in October of this year. Now that part's coming together. The body side of things is 9 months after the truck lands in Jericho at the dealership. So you're talking quite a ways out. But what they're now going back to is when the chassis comes in, it has to get paid for. Where we used to do as Clark's Truck Center, and then when it got into Allegiance took over, they were like, no, we don't need to do that. We'll do it all in one package when the truck is done. But now, because of the way things are going with truck and body companies, is they can't hold on for 9 months in waiting for the truck to be complete to get paid for it. So that scenario is not going to work at this point.
So you mean even if we were to look at the first scenario where we're not leasing, but we're going to wait the 10 years. So we would order it now thinking
Right.
we're going to get it in 18 months. Therefore, it would be on the ballot for town meeting fiscal year 27.
Yeah.
That's not going to work no matter what. So we would need to have a special meeting then either way, whether we're going to lease
Right.
or we're going to buy, we probably want to have a special meeting to
Got it.
deal with it.
And
I would highly recommend that we do that. Because I think the
Have a
fallout,
special meeting.
because I think the fallout, if we don't, would be extreme.
well, say that again, Bob. What's your,
I feel that because we're not able to bring this up at town meeting, to get voter approval, we will have to hold, I strongly, because of what happened last town meeting, that there was quite a bit of controversy over leasing of the 2021 truck, that the voters that were present at the town meeting felt like they needed to have some affirmation as far as us doing that. That I feel that based upon what was said last year, that if we're going to do this, that we should hold a special meeting, because we're not going to be able to do it at this town meeting because it's not warned. It's Tuesday. That after we've gotten through town meeting, that we should probably highly consider holding a special meeting, holding an informational meeting on what the issue is, why we're looking at doing exactly what we're talking about right now, have an informational hearing, and then hold a special election.
And then maybe not going, 10 years, but you'd buy yourself a year. So do a 9-year. So you still have to get approval, order the truck. So you could maybe just bump it up a year.
Whatever the case may be, whatever the
Whatever the
numbers.
decision we make
Right.
is, there should be a hearing.
I feel that we should have a hearing and that we should send it to the voters. And I don't know that we would necessarily want to wait until 2026 town meeting, that I think that we should probably do it shortly after this town meeting.
So statutory, town meetings come at a cost, right? So, there's warnings and procedure. We've done it before. It's not say we couldn't do it. Yeah.
It's just, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm in support of people weighing in an organized way. I don't know if I want to put myself out there and our board out there to make that decision just on our own. The data is good. I like it. But I think even though it will cost us a little bit more money to do that, I think that that's the proper way to do it. I do have a question about this, the townspeople's appetite for a debt balance. And Jennifer, you mentioned that we have never had a debt balance over $1 million. Now, this is probably an unfair question for you, but I was thinking, that number, those numbers on the right side there, if you were to say the last 10 years, and you were able to put a graph on it, and I know you can't do that, that's why it's unfair right now, but I think that would be helpful. Would that graph just go up gradually to $1 million, or does it kind of go up and down?
No, pretty much.
Exponential.
It pretty much goes up as the cost of doing business has
Everything.
gone up.
And that's partly because of what you said, Russ, the cost of trucks. And, the
cost of money.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're experiencing in our own budgets, to be sure. But in some ways, our debt balance, our personal debt balance, doesn't necessarily go up all the time. It kind of goes up and down. Now,
Well, I mean, personally, you can make choices. Personally, you can make choices. So maybe you wouldn't get as fancy a car, but we're getting the same trucks that we were buying in 2021, 2022 have gone from 200,000 to 300,000+ in a matter of 3 years. So I think that combined with interest rates, it has gone up exponentially.
Yeah, and people need to know, we're not just buying fancier trucks.
No, it's the same
We're
truck.
not upgrading our models. We're buying the same truck. I mean, they do come with newer stuff, which sometimes costs more money, but that's part of progress in the development.
Not to rope Amanda into this, but I think you can say the same thing about housing. The same house that sold 3 years ago is now, not the same price. It's a couple $100,000, but it's the same house. And someone may not have done anything to the house
Since 1980.
since whenever, and you're looking at a lot more for the same type. And I think it's the same thing almost with the truck industry, is that we're buying the same type of truck. It's just the cost is just going up.
I would think, what I think might be a good suggestion too is to talk to our lender, the Union Bank, about debt, our debt structure. Because if the bond passes, we're going to be looking at, a $2 million debt ceiling. I've been here and Dan has been here, and many of you have been here when we've had a major flood event. And I remember one year on the select board, we had to borrow $500,000 just to get our roads fixed like that. In anticipation of FEMA, but who knows if FEMA is going to exist or how much they're going to participate given the political climate. It's neither here nor there. But when it comes to being able to get quick money, how does the debt load play into that? If you remember, when we signed the truck lease, I believe they asked that question.
Yeah.
And there was actually a cap on the debt. Do you have more than X amount of debt? You had to certify that you didn't. Anyway, it's just something I think about all the time, because you need to always be in a position, if you have to borrow money.
So I guess I just want to recap. So the consensus of this group still is that we've signaled to Allegiance that we are interested in one of the trucks that is coming down the pipe. And that's still the consensus of the group, that we are still thinking about that. Now it's a matter of the question for this group, I feel, is that are we going to buy or lease this new truck potentially, and or what are we going to do with the 2021 truck that we leased? If we're going to keep it, if we're going to trade that in towards this new truck, what are the different options that we're going to do? And are we going to seek out approval and have an informational hearing with the residents?
So you're looking, just to give you some rough numbers, you're looking about, I would say, about 90 days to pull off a special town meeting. So this truck will not be available 90 days from now, I'm assuming. But a new truck, if you ordered a new truck would be here this fall, you're saying?
The chassis would be here this fall if things stay going the way they're going currently.
So I guess what I would like to do is I would propose that, I don't know if there's necessarily any action that we need to take tonight. Is there action that you want to take tonight on this? Or do we want to discuss this and take action as far as what option are we going to take when we meet next? And are we going to hold a special meeting, or are we just going to make the decision as the new board?
So at our last meeting, we put our name down as the town to lease one of these trucks that we would take possession of in 2025. Right.
I don't think lease was an option when you met last time. Lease
Okay.
came up in between these
Okay.
times.
So we said we would want to buy it. So the decision now is, okay.
I think we have some time to decide whether you want to lease a truck or you want to buy a truck. You got time for that. Well, if we want one of these trucks, we don't have time to prolong that. What I think could happen is if we choose to do a special town meeting, then we could always, I believe we could still keep our name on the truck, subject to special town meeting.
And that would be my personal preference, is that I think we should continue on with the idea that we want to try to hold on to this truck that is coming available through Allegiance, but I'd like to have more input or give the residents or the public an opportunity to weigh in and have a better understanding so that no one can try to eliminate people from coming back and saying like, well, you never asked, or you never informed me, or whatever the case may be.
I think that's right. I think option 2 and 3 just don't seem realistic or feasible or like in the best interest financially of the town. I think the debt problem is something I think we're going to have to deal with. Not you. Next term, we'll have to like talk through how we think about servicing the debt in an ongoing way that keeps our optionality for emergency situations. But I just think we're given all of the information and the work that you guys did in presenting this to us. It just seems like moving forward with a new truck and then setting up a way to get the town's input on that process, I think is probably the right call. I don't know if that's.
Nope. I
the
think
consensus
we're all looking at it the same way.
Okay.
Just
I think-
one question I have from my side. Allegiance doesn't need any signed contract from us. They just need to hear from us that, yes, we will do something, and they will give us the time to do that something.
Yeah, when I got the okay from you folks at our last meeting to put a hold on that truck, all I was required to do was to sign the proposal with a note saying, subject to February, whatever today is, 27th, select board meeting. So that way, it's held until tonight. If we decided to buy something or lease, whatever, keep our name on it,
Yeah.
whether we lease it, buy it, barter, whatever you want to call it, down the road, then that's something we could work on. But I do believe, and I would find out from Dan tomorrow, if they would basically put a purchase and sales agreement together, and in writing it would say, subject to special Underhill town meeting, hopefully get a time frame when that would be. And the reason we're able to do that is, I think a lot of it is our relationship with the dealership. And the truck's not even built yet. So, I mean, if the truck was sitting on the ground, ready to go, they would probably be like, no.
I just wanted to be sure that there would be some security in this other than just a verbal thing, and it sounds like there is.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It would probably be more put onto a more formal purchase and sales agreement with all that writing on it. It just protects us and it protects them. But
So if we're all looking at this the same way, Brad, can you have a proposal for us to consider for a special meeting to discuss this and what those dates would look like, and when we would when we could have an informational meeting that would take place sometime after Tuesday?
Yeah, we could, obviously have to talk it over to Sherry because she has to officiate the town meeting,
Right,
the
but you
special
can-
town
but you
meeting.
can have-
I could give you a
can
rough,
have- You can have something prepared for the next time we get together. You'll have a couple weeks to be able to have that
yeah.
conversation.
But I'm just
Report
saying, plan on it being, 3-4 months from now. Yes.
Okay.
Why don't,
But I'll
I'd like-
get it together.
find out what is possible. I don't necessarily want to put this off any farther than we need to. I'd like to try to take action as soon as we can.
Yep. I understand. I think there's some minimums there, so
Right.
we'll do the best we can.
Okay. We're right on time, Brad.
All right.
The next item on the agenda.
do I just, can I just say one thing? Do I have, you're okaying me to set that up with Allegiance to hold the truck subject to?
We're not taking any other, I'm not hearing this group say that we're doing anything different. I think we're coming to, what, looks like we want to continue on purchasing this truck, but we're signaling that we want to potentially have a special meeting, informational meeting, and a special election to decide that, so that we don't overstep, is the way I'm looking at it. Is that you don't want the select board to overstep and then have the residents get, displeased with what we're doing.
Russ-
Just to be clear, Russ is probably going to have to sign another agreement that says until the next one. And I think that's your question. Can
Yeah,
you do
just,
that?
you're okay with
Can we
Yeah.
hold off till we at least have this conversation with Sherry? And
Well, anybody
Yeah,
can
she's
hold
a-
off, but
Well,
there's
I mean,
minimum amount of
but
trucks
for a day.
available. Oh,
For a
I thought you were
day,
talking.
Sherry's coming in tomorrow.
I
She
thought you
wasn't
meant
here.
the next
No,
select board
no,
meeting.
no,
That's what I
but
thought
I'm just saying Sherry's coming tomorrow, and I think it's really unfair to talk about a special election. She is the treasurer, by the way, and she has the authority to sign or not sign notes. So I think in all fairness and respect to her,
Yeah.
I'd just like to
Yeah.
catch her up to speed.
I have no problem with that.
I don't-
That's
I
not what
don't-
I was getting at. I'm just,
But
I'll
whatever
do
you
my
want to
due
do.
diligence.
No, I guess I don't feel like anything that has been said tonight has been done in any sort of disrespectful way to anyone, other than we're trying to come to some type of consensus on what we're going to do with this truck. I'm asking for clarification of when we can have a special meeting, and I await the response from that. I'm happy to have you have a conversation with Sherry and any other town employees about when that's going to be, but I certainly do not think it's reasonable to wait 4 to 6 months to have a special meeting of the town of Underhill to discuss this.
Yeah, I'm not saying that, Bob. The only thing I was saying is just one day to make sure Sherry, to make sure we're just not missing something here. That's all.
And that's
all.
I think that's fine.
Yeah, just, and then if she says, yep, we'll plan on that, do that, then
Good.
And thank you all for listening and your consideration. Greatly appreciated.
Thank you for the
Thank you,
details.
Russ. Yeah.
So the next item is the review and approve the warrants and review the minutes of the January 16th special meeting and the February 13th regular meeting. Do you still have those?
Oh,
They
I
make
think
their way down
they
that
did
way?
make their way down.
yeah, so it's the payroll warrant for
Move that we approve the payroll warrant dated
2/24/25.
2/24/25. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, are you ready for the question? All those in favor of the payroll warrant, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. The next item is the warrants dated
225 or 227, actually. I'm
February
sorry.
27th. I move that we accept those as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor of approving the warrants dated 2/27, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Next item is the meeting minutes of the 16th of January. I move that we accept those meeting minutes as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes for the 16th of January, please signify by saying aye.
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 I think I'll have to abstain because I wasn't here then.
Dan Steinbauer, aye.
Bob Stone, aye.
Maureen Collins Kolb, aye.
Dan Kelsey abstain.
Motion carries 3-1-0. Next is the select board meeting minutes for February 13th, 2025. I move that in this meeting, Patty and Dan Steinbauer were absent. I move that we accept the February 13th meeting minutes as presented. Is there a second?
I can second.
Any discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor of the meeting minutes dated 2/13/25, please signify by saying aye.
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 Dan Steinbauer, abstain.
Bob Stone, aye.
Maureen Collins Kolb, aye.
Dan Kelsey, aye.
Motion carries 3-1-0, or 3-0-1. Okay.
I guess you do.
Oh, goody.
These are.
Member items, correspondence, announcements scheduled. Next meeting will be the town meeting on the 4th of March. Anyone have anything?
I wanted to just give a quick, I just wanted to talk quick about after town meeting.
Microphone?
Sorry, Aaron, thank you. I just want to talk about after town meeting. So it's important, as soon as 7 PM hits on Tuesday, this board is not organized and is not authorized to do anything. So until the board meets and reorganizes and elects a chair and a vice chair and a schedule, then they can operate. So I'm proposing, if it's up to you, it's up to you, but the 6th is a Thursday. And if possible, I would like to schedule a reorganization meeting, an organizational meeting for that.
For the new board.
For the new board.
Are you on vacation that week?
I would like to go on vacation the next week, but that would be the regular schedule, but we could talk about that at the organization.
So I would like to have our organizational meeting either the 5th or the 6th. I don't know what others' availability is, but
My availability, given that I'm responsible for all the flower show volunteers, I'll be out straight all week.
Okay.
I will not be available.
Okay.
I would be available, but can kind of do whatever works.
We could
So
also
can you-
wait till the 13th if you want.
Can you please contact Patty
Yes.
and find out what her availability is and ask her if Wednesday or Thursday works best and whatever day works for Patty, either Wednesday or
Oh, you
Thursday.
know, I'm sorry, Wednesday night, my kids are both Taekwondo testing for their
Okay.
new color belt, so I couldn't
So
do
can
Wednesday.
you
night.
ask Patty
Yes.
if Thursday will work, the 6th? If not, let us know and we'll try to figure out. I'm hesitant to want to do this if you're going to be taking that following week off. So I guess, find out from Patty and get back.
Yeah. The only question I do have, and I'll check online. I'm not sure if all members need to be present for the organizational meeting or not. But I will find that out and I will ask Patty. I'll be in touch. I'll send an
Okay.
email tomorrow.
Sounds good.
So we don't know.
So everyone is going to be at town meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Good to see everybody there.
Indeed.
Yeah. All right. If there's nothing else, Dan, it's that point of the meeting where you get to say the magic words, I guess.
Calling to be adjourned? Move to adjourn.
There you go. Dan moves. I second. Is there no discussion? Because it's not debatable. All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. This meeting is adjourned at 7:25. Thank you, everyone.
Well done.